People really think that BlackRock or Larry Fink have only recently gotten into Bitcoin, and they have no idea that it's very likely they're actually advising countries. Because one thing is certain, countries have advisors from major financial firms like BlackRock or Fidelity who have been researching crypto for years, and this also has to do with Germany and their Bitcoin. All of this is covered in the video. Something very strange is happening right now in the Bitcoin market. Don't you think so? All these announcements just seem way too strange to me, especially the timing of what's happening right now. Almost every day we hear about some new company saying, hey, we're buying Bitcoin now. We're getting out of regular money, out of the dollar, out of the euro, and we're protecting ourselves and investing in Bitcoin. For example, there was a company that mines gold and silver, and they just announced that they're going to put all their extra profits into Bitcoin now. Another company spent $500 million on it, and yet another is talking about investing $5.4 billion in Bitcoin. This is happening practically every 24 hours, and isn't it just crazy that we're witnessing this right now? And now get this. There's this company, Eberts Pharma GmbH. Maybe you've heard of them. Honestly, I don't, apparently. They produce premium natural cosmetics and have just bought or invested $10 million in Bitcoin. They claim to be the first company in Germany to make such a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and that's just totally crazy, isn't it? I talked to some friends from the crypto scene about it, and they were just as confused as I was. Everyone kind of thinks that prices should actually be much higher the price of Bitcoin and also the altcoins, especially after all the major events that are happening every day now in the crypto world. But still, every day there's news like this, and I really wonder why more people aren't noticing it and why the price isn't actually going up. Are the other crypto people just talking about charts or lines and missing the bigger picture here? I just don't get it. Do you see what I mean? It's just too wild what's happening right now. It's really strange that this isn't getting more attention. Everts Pharma GmbH, a German company, also started buying Bitcoin in December 2020 and back then bought Bitcoin worth $2 million. Since then, they have been regularly putting their profits into Bitcoin, buying more Bitcoin, and so on in order to ultimately build up a digital reserve, a digital Bitcoin reserve. That's what they call it. They say it's supposed to bring them stability in the long term. By the way, the company is involved in natural cosmetics, and they believe Bitcoin is a perfect fit for their reserves because it is scarce and makes them future-proof. And things like this are happening every single day now. And if you were around a few years ago, you know how crazy this all is. Back then, we would have freaked out, the entire crypto community would have freaked out if any company had bought Bitcoin. There was simply no consistency in the crypto world, and companies and institutions were constantly telling us Bitcoin is garbage. We want nothing to do with crypto. Maybe you remember when they used to say blockchain, not Bitcoin, and that was everywhere. But today we hear news almost every day about companies investing in Bitcoin, building up a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and what we're experiencing right now is actually a bit strange. And in case you're wondering how all of this has turned around, last summer it came out that countries like Germany, China, and the USA actually own Bitcoin themselves. And it surprised a lot of people because most never checked or aren't interested in the past. By the way, China never really banned Bitcoin. I've been saying that for quite some time. What you can't do in China is use Bitcoin as an official means of payment or pay with it in stores. And for Bitcoin mining in China, you now need paperwork, meaning a license, and you have to do it through official channels. That's the only exception. This is because there used to be chaos. For example, there was a story about a teacher in China who mined Bitcoin in his classroom. It was so loud that the students started to complain, and then there were even power outages at the school because of it. That's why, among other things, you now have to get everything properly approved in China. And back to Eberts Pharma GmbH. They recently invested another $10 million in Bitcoin as part of their strategy. And that's really wild when you think about how much everything has changed. In the past, people who had Bitcoin, who had crypto, were considered the crazy ones, and now companies are basically buying Bitcoin every day. And I sometimes wonder if people even notice this at all. And last year, there was a lot of commotion because it was said that Germany was going to sell its Bitcoin. And if they actually did that, it would be really, really stupid. But I hope that's not true, and that it's actually something else. One thing is a fact. Many people like you and me have noticed that big companies like BlackRock and Fidelity have gotten into Bitcoin. And that really excited people. In the crypto world, there are often people who believe things without there being any real evidence for them. For example, a few years ago, some people sent coins to Vitalik Buterin's Ethereum address, hoping that others would think he had bought them and would then buy those coins as well. But Vitalik Buterin exchanged those coins for Ether, sold them, and then donated the money. Of course, that made some people angry because it caused the price of Ether to drop. In the same way, it could also be that the rumors about Germany selling Bitcoin started like this. Maybe Germany hasn't actually sold its Bitcoin at all, but people think so because they're jumping to conclusions too quickly. Of course, it's possible that someone in Germany did sell the Bitcoin, but would that really make strategic sense, especially considering that Germany has a BlackRock chancellor? So Friedrich Merz used to work for BlackRock. BlackRock and other companies then bought or started buying Bitcoin, and Germany would have been the only country to sell its Bitcoin. That just doesn't really make any sense. I basically hope that it's not true that they sold it. And it's important before we continue, if you own Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, that you don't keep all your cryptocurrencies in one place. You know, an average crypto user who's been around for a while has several wallet addresses, a few ledgers, for example, accounts on crypto exchanges, maybe even wallets on their computer or phone. That's easily 5 to 10 different places, and it's a good thing it's like that because it makes absolutely no sense to keep everything in one place, especially since in the world of cryptocurrencies, a lot gets hacked very quickly. And just imagine someone like Vitalik Buterin, the creator of Ethereum, probably has even more addresses than most people realize. And recently, when Germany started selling their Bitcoin, at least that's what most people think, and what was in the news, a lot of people said, oh, they're going to regret this. They have no idea. I said that too. But honestly, if we really think about it, countries have advisors from big firms like BlackRock or Fidelity who have been informing them about crypto for years. Germany also has external advisors and not just the ones we know about. Do you really think that Germany sold the Bitcoin, or do you think something else was going on here? Because other countries like the UK and so on, they didn't sell their Bitcoin. And Larry Fink from BlackRock is warning about a Bitcoin price of $700,000 per Bitcoin, and Germany has a BlackRock chancellor. Something just doesn't add up. It's totally crazy.
If you're frightened of your debasement of your currency, or why, you're frightened of your economic or political stability of your country, you could have a internationally based instrument called Bitcoin that will overcome those local fears. And so I'm a big believer in the utilization of that as an instrument. And so if that becomes true and you see that it could be a proper hedge against maybe hopefully securities or equities, the question is, could you see a 2 or 5% allocation? I was with a sovereign wealth fund during this week, and that was the conversation. Should we have a 2% allocation? Should we have a 5% allocation? If everybody adopted that conversation, it would be 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 for Bitcoin.
Well, does it also...
I'm not promoting that, by the way. So that is not my promotion or...
What is likely is that Germany sent their Bitcoins to an exchange like Coinbase or Binance, then transferred them to a new private wallet address that no one knows, making them invisible. This way, they can basically hide their assets and no one knows how much they really have. And every time the price of Bitcoin goes up, someone posts on Twitter, I bet Germany feels really stupid now. But that just shows that these people don't understand how money management works. It's basically like in movies where a wealthy family suddenly loses everything because they kept all their assets in one place. But in reality, rich people and even countries diversify their assets worldwide in such a way that no one knows how much they actually have. The goal is basically to never lose everything at once. For example, they have assets in shell companies, and in any case, as more and more companies announce that they're getting into crypto and buying large amounts, it doesn't look like this is going to stop anytime soon. And honestly, I don't even know what else to say. It's really strange what's happening right now. This is happening every day. The prices don't match the demand, and I hope that at some point, reality will show itself. I hope you all had fun, had a great day, and were able to take something away from this.
Bitcoin represents the greatest digital transformation of the 21st century. It represents digital capital. The global wealth is distributed across assets that provide utility and others that preserve capital. But risk is destroying trillions of dollars of that capital every single year, and investors are turning to digital capital in the form of Bitcoin in order to avoid that risk. Digital capital is economically and technically superior to physical capital, and it represents a revolutionary advance in capital preservation. The asset class itself is growing from trillions to hundreds of trillions of dollars, and it is backed by digital power, along with political and economic power. Bitcoin is the best asset you can own. The numbers speak for themselves. It makes much more sense to buy Bitcoin than to buy back your own stock, or to hold Bitcoin rather than holding bonds. If you want to outperform, you need Bitcoin. Fortunately, you have an alternative. Public support for Bitcoin is surging, as is support for the US Bitcoin Strategic Reserve.
Sell them into Bitcoin. That way we wouldn't have to use any new dollars.
Wall Street support is also surging.
I believe Bitcoin is legitimate.
And the President of the United States says,
never sell your Bitcoin, right?
That's why we're entering year one of the crypto renaissance. And you have a choice to make: cling to the past or embrace the future. Divest billions of dollars and slow your growth rate. Invest billions of dollars and accelerate your growth rate.
Do you really think Germany sold its Bitcoin while other countries are buying more and more? Companies are buying, institutions are buying Bitcoin, countries are mining Bitcoin. Do you think these countries don't realize what's going on? Do you think, for example, that you're the only one who's smarter than these countries with their massive financial reserves? Do you really think they said, no, we don't need what BlackRock is investing in right now? Or maybe did they actually send it to a private wallet so that no one can see how they're accumulating more and more Bitcoin? The logic just doesn't add up at all. And if you want to store your Bitcoin securely offline, click the link in the description.